We all understand that the early development of our children is key. Getting access to resources in the community to assist our children in their early development, whether it's speech therapy or an array of other services, is essential to a healthy, long-going life. Today, we'll talk with a service coordinator who works with vendors in the community to get the resources and tools needed for children infant to 3 years old. We'll touch on topics such as a day in the life of a service coordinator and how being a service coordinator has not only helped the children, but the parents of the children in these communities. Today, we'll be talking with Jessica Gonzalez, the service coordinator here at the Children's Resource Center. Here's the conversation. All right, Jessica, so how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation with me and letting our audience know a little bit more about you and what you do.
Yeah, nice. I'm ready.
So for starters, what is your official job title?
I'm a service coordinator for the Early Start
For
department.
the Early Start department?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess in a quick tidbit, what would that job entail?
That would be handling any cases that have to do with children under 3 years old. Can be from birth to 3 years old, and then was that the question? Sorry, I missed the birthday.
Yeah, go ahead.
So handling any cases that have been given, have been referred to the regional center. So usually it starts from doctor referring any concerns that the parents may have, or they may have as well. In other cases, it could be children that are born prematurely. They automatically qualify for services through regional center. So we handle it from 1 month to 3 years old.
Okay, so it's kind of almost like toddler and younger.
Yes.
So because I know a little bit of your background was in child development and teaching as well, right? You've taught at elementary school for some time. So have you found leveraging that experience working as a teacher, how have you found that beneficial to you in your current role?
I have, to answer your original question, the ways that I've found it beneficial has been being able to, what we ask the parents is when we do our first meeting, make sure to bring the child, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm able to observe the child and see in their natural environment to see how they behave, how they interact with me, how they interact with the parents. So I'm able to see if, what's suggested, or after their evaluation, if they need more, what is suggested. And I think it's helped as, having an educational background, especially in Early Start, that I can see where, an evaluation can say that the child is requiring, more services than needed, or they're just not even suggested to receive any service such as speech. I'm oh no, this child should be receiving speech. I can, I have the, sorry, I have the, I have the control of having that child getting evaluated. So it's easier to single out, or necessarily single out, but notice things on a child that requires more support in areas that may have not been seen through the first initial evaluation.
Oh, okay. So what it sounds like is you use the experience you have teaching kids in this age region, right, or in this age demographic, and you can leverage the experience in knowing what to look out for from an educational standpoint that would benefit the clients that you serve with your case management.
Yes.
So you can identify where okay, this kid might need speech services, because I've worked with kids of this age before in my past background, and I see that actually would be more beneficial if they enroll in this service. And it sounds like you have the control or the leverage, the ability to negotiate what resources each of your clients could benefit from.
Exactly, yes.
Do you prefer working with that age region? I keep saying region, demographic, or do you prefer a different age demographic?
I would say I prefer this age, maybe more because of my experience overall, and I think it's easier in some sense to understand like where developmentally these kids can be.
Because of your experience, you're saying? Having taught this level?
Yeah, and then there's some things that can be easily like not be seen so early on.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to have the communication with the parent, because it's also an interview with the parent, to get to know more of the child aside from observing. I think I'm more comfortable with this age range.
What are some challenges, right? Because a lot of us who have kids of that age or have worked with children, right? I mean, my mom, she ran a daycare program when I grew up in the house. So I've seen kids of all ages, and, they have those terrible twos as the call outs on some of the toddlers. Have you had to deal with any of that? I know you do home visits from time to time. Mm-hmm. Are there challenges dealing with kids of that age that we don't necessarily think about?
Do you mean like challenges as for me as to, or can you repeat the question?
Yeah, like challenges for you in your job. Dealing with kids that age.
Dealing with that kid. Well, during that like meeting that we usually have, the challenges I would say that we may have, it's very like can vary a lot of times, but one of the main things that I would definitely say is getting the full like answers from a parent. A lot of times parents shy out and telling us like, oh, like my child just says like 2 words, but we understand the other things they say, like sometimes they shy out and not telling us fully exactly what's happening at home, because a lot of times there's been cases where some parents have said like, I don't want my child with a label, so that makes it kind of hard in that aspect. I'm not sure if that answered your question.
Well, it sounds like it's almost like going to the doctors, right? Like you go to the doctors to get treated, but if you're not fully divulging of the truth of what you're there for, it's really hard to get all the services that you would need. So some of the parents, in the interest of protecting, the integrity and the respect of their own child, they may leave out certain details that might be more beneficial to you as a professional to helping better acquaint them to resources that would benefit that child. Right. So it's this catch 2020 where they in their minds thinking they're doing their best interest to protect the child. But in fact, it'd be more beneficial the more information you could be given as a service coordinator, so that whatever they felt they needed this service for is going to get their needs met even more accurately.
Yes, exactly. Right on point.
Okay, that makes sense. So that could be a challenge where you're thinking like, okay, I'm here to provide a service. I'm here to help any way I can. But it's almost like that help me help you, right? Mm-hmm. The more you can give me, the better I can determine what resources we have available that would be beneficial to the child. So yeah. It's almost like you're handcuffed a little bit in that position sometimes, where you may see things that the parent also knows but doesn't want to validate that with a response. So then you're almost kind of having to weed between like, okay, do I call this out or do I respect the parent's wishes and not speak on these things that I see happening necessarily with the child, but I want to be respectful, but I also want to do my job, right? Like there's a balancing act, it sounds like you have to do.
Yes, you have to basically like read the room, like body language of the parent, And it's understanding like you don't want your child to have a label, but it's also I think it helps, as for me personally, like knowing that I might encounter situations like that. So it helps that I'm like, like I'm here to help you. The more info I have, the more I can help you. So, it's more benefit for the child. We can start early on. And then, that's why we say, like, we have our meeting for when they turn 3, before they turn 3. And if they don't need any more services, then that's fine. I'm like, it's better to have extra support than having, like, none at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that also helps the parents, like, feel... And most times it helps the parents feel, like, more comfortable, like, oh, okay, I'm not here to be judged for a label that my child might get. And that's also a reminder, like, to give the parents, like, I'm just here, basically the case manager. I'm not here to put a label on your child. I'm just here to try to find the best services and the best, vendors that can help each child's need.
How's your working relationship with these vendors that you pitch out for resources? Do you have a good relationship with them?
So far, I think I have a really good relationship with one speech vendor, which is really good, and which is really important also because it's like, oh, we have to email and check, like, hey, do you have availability for this amount of time and this zip code? And then she'll let me know, I don't have any, but I'll let you know, I'll put you on the list, or she'll just say, hey, like something opened up, like she'll just personally email me. I'm like, so that's good, have a consistent, I'm like, always knowing someone that's going to reply to your email, because time is sensitive also. I can get a case where a child is going to turn 3 in 3 months, but it does take like 45 days for their services to start. So I'm like, okay, I know who to go with that's going to reply right away.
Mm-hmm.
So far I have that, and then we have for the infant development program. I'm still trying to find my loops in that. There's a lot more vendors with that, so there's a lot of competition. But I think so far, might have my 2 top picks for the infant development program.
So it sounds like the main vendors you work with are the speech therapy vendors, or?
Yeah, speech and infant development.
Speech and infant development.
Yeah. Speech, we have literally probably like 2 handfuls of speech vendors that go to the house, but they are obviously always booked.
So it's almost like a roulette trying to book an available therapist for one of your clients.
Yeah.
Okay. But the responsiveness is key, like you said, being able to keep that open dialogue and communication, and, the replying will help put one of those vendors potentially, in the front runner.
Yes.
Where it's like, all right, I want to make myself available to the service coordinators within this, building here, because that'll get my name passed around, that'll keep my work going. And then you build that working relationship that you can recommend them for future clients that you need, or what have you. So you have that continuity of care, essentially. I think there's a benefit to knowing who that staple vendor is that you work with, because then if new clients come about that need that same service, you've already got a reputable resource in the community.
Yes, exactly.
And child development, it's a key component, right? Because I know that a lot of initial development of a child's trajectory going forward happens within those first 3 years. So do you feel a certain responsibility to the age demographic that you do serve, knowing that this does potentially shape their future?
Yes, I do. And I think that's one of the parts of my job that I like. It's kind of like, oh my God, we have to like figure out this vendor, and this is where it comes to like, also having good relationships with other coworkers, because they might have like a relationship with the vendor personally that emails them like, hey, like, I have availability, but they don't need them. So then I'll ask them, like, anyone know like a vendor that has available spot right now? So it's like, the time frame is important, especially because those first 3 years are like, it's crucial. You want to be as supportive as you can in different, corners, ways for each individual child.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that, parents who have children within this age range that could benefit from these services, it'd be in their best interest to know that these service coordinators are passionate about helping children in that age range, right? Like, what are some of the most, I know you touched on some of these, but if you could just give a couple of the, most fulfilling things in your work from a day to day, how do you articulate that? A couple things that are just the most fulfilling as a service coordinator.
Fulfilling. Can you repeat the question?
Just a couple things that are fulfilling as a service coordinator, the most fulfilling things that you get out of your job.
Out of my job is like the moment that I receive an email from the vendor that service has started. I'm like, oh my God, this took less than 45 days, It means like I got the report done within that week.
Right.
Send the referral, and I'm like, okay, the goal is not my goal is not for services to start in 45 days. My goal is to start by 30 days. That way, and once I meet that before that, it's like, I mean, services are ready, and it's like an excitement and also like some sort of relationship bond with the parents. Like, and then the parents, call them, let them know like they will be calling you soon. And knowing like they feel some sort of relief, it's like makes me feel like I'm doing my job and more.
Absolutely, for sure. It's like that gratification knowing that you are making an impact, not just on the child's life, but the parent who's obviously caring for their child and wanting to see that their kid can get as many resources as they can. Knowing that you've actually been able to close the loop on that and getting them the help they need within a certain time frame. It's like, that can be very gratifying knowing that you're making that impact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I have I'm not necessarily like a personal relationship with one of my parents, but I am the service coordinator for 2 of her children. Actually, 1 now, because her child turned 3 today. Mm-hmm. So after today, one of them is not, but he started really late, and it's been like, I felt really like I wanted to help mom. Like, it seemed like she's on her own for the most part. I'm like, okay, like, hey, gonna try to get a vendor. Say you want a transportation, we're gonna, whatever we can get within the 3 months before he turns 3, let's do it now. And knowing the mom just felt comfortable, like we had emotional moments on the phone, conversations that could be like 5-minute calls have been like 30. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, I'm here to help, as much as she would apologize. I'm like, no, like that's what I'm basically here. I'm not only just also for, finding new vendors for this and that, get you, help your child get ready for the next step. I'm also like, I can be emotional support for the parents, if needed, if they want, if they're comfortable. So that helps too. Like having that closeness relationship, she'll text, like, I'm so sorry, Jessica, but I just really, thank you for this, thank you for that. And just, I'm like, okay, whatever I can do, I'm going to pull my strings.
Right. So it's not so much as like, this is a burden to me having, the parents reach out to me offline or what have you. It's more of, oh, this is just further validation that I'm doing the job that I came here to do. And it's actually good for me to hear that positive feedback from the parents. Because I know in some places, right, folks are like, okay, hey, it's after 5 p.m. I'm not trying to talk to you. But regardless of that, it seems like you open yourself more to be available to those parents of these children And that also in turn could potentially speak highly for you down the line. Like you mentioned, you have 2 kids under one of the parents there, right? So obviously, if she didn't like you the first time, why would she give the second child to you? That would only make sense.
She even asked if I can be her eldest service coordinator. She was like, how can I do that? I'm like, unfortunately, I'm not from that department. That's like the older school age children. I'm like, she's like, oh, she's like, I finally found someone that was good. And I was like, there's only little things I can pull and find out, like, who's your coordinator. I was like, she's like, okay, that's fine. She's like, you've done, a lot for me in 3 months.
Right. Somebody getting into the service coordinator position or interested in getting into that career, what are some basic skills you think, because I talk about soft skills versus hard skills. Mm-hmm. Soft skills being more, people oriented social skills, and then the hard skills being more the technical skills, things you may need trainings or certifications on. Where do you see the service coordinator role from, whether it be soft skills or technical skills, however you want to start, in explaining that, but somebody getting into that, what are some things you think would be good for them to have under their toe belt?
I would say definitely multitasking.
Okay.
I think starting with the multitasking, it can also, you can, use that skill when you're having like a meeting with the parent and you're trying to have them sign, but you're also trying to like help out with the child that is like trying to also sign on these paperwork, and being understanding. Like, we know that they're children. Like, you can tell them no, that doesn't mean that they're going to stop doing what they're doing. So, being understanding and having that like soft side of knowing that, or reassuring to the parent that it's okay that their child is being a child. Mm-hmm. And then also tech savvy, like you have to find ways also that are more like personalized to you individually, that work best for you. Like, your supervisors can give you like a binder with the cheat sheet stuff, but if that's not what works for you, then you'll have to be a little bit more proactive and find what works for you.
So finding like new creative ways to think outside of the box of what maybe not just the standard template of items to cover, but using your creativity could actually benefit you in this line of work.
Yes, exactly.
Being able to multitask, having good technical savvy, but also good emotional stability and understanding to be able to empathize, with the parents dealing with the children, right? And relating back to them so that they feel more comfortable opening up to you, which would then in turn, I would imagine, give you better insight as to what their challenges are, personally within their family, so that could help you better even understand what resources or have available that would best benefit them.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's see if I can summarize. So a good service coordinator, you're working with community resources. There's vendors that provide speech. I think it was speech and I forgot the other one. Infant development, was it?
No, the infant development program.
Okay. And you have a caseload of approximately how many cases?
I have 39.
39. So the ability to multitask, the ability to be able to relate back, having good soft skills to understand them, having good technical skills, whether it be, in the computer, leveraging, I would imagine, spreadsheets, Excel, things like that.
Yes.
Okay. And then bringing the creativity to think outside of the box in ways you could potentially leverage your tech savvy skills to provide more services or to reach the client at a more personable level. It seems like you open up yourself to be almost like emotional support to the parents of these children. You're working with, I believe, infants up to 3 years old. and you've leveraged some of your teaching background to add value to this current job as a service coordinator. Is there any formal degrees or certifications needed for somebody wanting to get into this field?
A BA in like any related field, such like social work, psychology, child development. There is like flexibility. Doesn't necessarily have to be in that. Could be also in business. Experience is a lot. It's a key factor. So it's mainly like a BA to start with.
Okay. All right. So we'll wrap with this. Let me ask you this final question. If you could, what's a typical day for you going to work? The time you're starting? What do you do when you get in there? What does the day look like for you? And then wrapping up at the end of the day, how does that typically look?
Usually get there, clock in, sit at my desk, get the technical stuff going.
I assume you have your coffee at this point. Have you had a coffee yet?
Not yet.
Not yet? Oh, man.
It takes a while for the computer to start, so that's why I do the whole thing of taking out the laptop because it's locked up. My cell phone, I have to use an authenticator.
Okay.
In order to log in to their system. So I don't know, it's a whole little process. So I'm like, okay, I'll get that ready. While that is loading, then that's when I already will have a coffee, or I'll go make one, or go fill up my water, just to do things while other things are loading.
Mm-hmm.
And then first things first is like look what's on my calendar for the day, and for the next day to see what to send reminders about meetings. And any important things that need to be done. And then depending on the day, easy like Tuesday or Wednesday, I'll get assigned new cases. So I should get like 2 new cases. If lucky one. And then, try to schedule those out. So I know by 3:30 after lunch, and so by 3:30 is when I check again, like what's on my to-do list. And then from the to-do list there, I'm like, okay, what else can we do? And this is where it comes with like knowing like case management, because from an old file that you don't have a big meeting until like 3 months, you can like find things literally from each individual file that need to be updated. So also check my amount of hours I put in and my units. There's a quota we're supposed to meet daily and then monthly, so making sure I met that. And then alarm rings at 4:45 to reminder to start cleaning up, because I'm off at 5.
All right. Okay. All right. So there's a lot of things you mentioned earlier on the multitasking. So for sure, that sounds like it'll take some play into your day to day and coordinating quite a few things that are happening simultaneously, and then follow-ups, the check-ins, making sure you have all your ducks in a row. So it's quite a gig. Sounds like.
Yeah.
Is there anything before we wrap that you want to speak on? Any final words?
No, I mean, this is good. I think it helps also like someone not in the field asking you like, what do you do? Like in a full like, interview. Because in other cases, someone will ask you, oh, so how's your job? Like, what do you do now? What's your job title? And it's like trying to explain that in like a 3 to 5 minute conversation. It's like, I usually go with the easiest way, which is like, it's kind of like a social worker, but I'm not a social worker. I'm here. I work with social workers, and depending if I have cases with Oh my God, I blanked out. What is it? Department of Protective. Oh, DCFS. Sorry. But I'm like, but now this actually like, oh well, I do a lot. Having this longer conversation with someone. So I really appreciate you having me here. Yeah, this is good.
No, I appreciate you taking the time. And that's kind of the whole point of the conversation, is that oftentimes we kind of have a narrow point of view as to what we do or the larger impacts that it has on folks outside of us. And having the chance to be able to understand that on a little bit more detail and dive into some of those topics of discussion is also beneficial for not just the listeners, but the guests themselves, as we'll find out, right? Is that being able to articulate what you do helps you to have more clarity as to what you do and what the potential impacts are on a greater scale. So appreciate you taking the time. And this is Jessica Gonzalez, service coordinator here, and go ahead and wrap it up. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.